right, our speaker today is a local attorney, a member of the club, and I believe now the leader in bringing guests to the club for the entire year. And the founder of Liquid Castle. So Stacy, come up and tell us some more about it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Stacy Maloney, founder and CEO of Liquid Castles. Why CEO and not executive director? Because I hope to make it successful in the 12th Judicial Circuit, take it out through other circuits throughout the state of Florida, and hire a lobbyist to go to DC to get more federal funds for the foster orphan population. They need more help. Yeah, they do. So if I shake, it's because I'm really nervous. I am a child of a foster child, actually a foster orphan child. And I experienced the generational trauma that happens in this population. I had experienced physical abuse as a little girl for several years from my mother. And she never healed from her abuse, her trauma, from her upbringing. When I was a teenager, my mother shared more trauma that happened to her. And when I was a teenager, I told myself, someday I'm going to help this population, because my heart was so sad that what happened to my mom. So I thought the best way to tell you about Liquid Castles is to create a timeline in my PowerPoint. On each table is magical mermaids. So take one, because they are magical. There's a bookmarker, because I'm pro-reading. I love Anna Maria Oysterbar's John and Amanda Horn's Dive Into Reading program. I'm a big supporter of that. So my bookmarkers are business cards. And then I printed out yesterday's daily affirmation. I don't know if you're familiar with the website. It's called adultchildren.org. And I was pegged as an ACOA in 2015. At the time, I was a financial advisor for Morgan Stanley, and I was soliciting retirement plans. And I was soliciting law firms, because I went to law school and I really wanted to be a lawyer. So I thought, okay, I'll start soliciting law firms and get acquainted. And I was soliciting a retirement plan, and the managing partner looked at me and he said, "You're an ACOA." I'm like, ACOA? What's an ACOA? He goes, "You're an adult child of an alcoholic." I was in shock. How did he know that? And he was right. And he told me, look into adultchildren.org and just do it. And I did. And I still get the daily meditations every day. And I printed out yesterday's. It's on the table. There's only 2 on the table. But when you get a chance, please read it. I would like you to. Okay? So that gives you a little bit of a background, starting background. So, Liquid Castles, help the foster orphan population. First, the initiative is to get these kids transportation, all right? When I'm long dead and gone, there's going to be subways in the sky around here. We can't have subways like Manhattan. These kids need transportation, okay? The recipient of that need, when that need's satisfied, the recipient, I want to ask them, what if you could have a 24-hour vacation in the state of Florida, because we're in Florida, can't take them out of the lines. From my research, I was told that causes a lot of red tape. So what 24-hour vacation would they want to do? And then I'm going to go solicit, whether it's hotels, restaurant owners, business owners, and get them that 24-hour vacation. I want them to know what it feels like to pack a suitcase, not a backpack, nothing wrong with backpacks, but they don't know what it feels like to pack a suitcase. They don't know what it feels like to go out to dinner on a Friday night on vacation. They don't even know how to use napkins. So I want to give that to them. Just 24 hours. It's realistic. and it's not going to depress them. If I were to give them a week vacation, they're going to get back and they're going to be so much more depressed because it's not realistic. But a 24-hour vacation is realistic, in my opinion. And then ultimately, I want to build a fund. I want to have annual charity fundraising events and build a fund to help them with their down deposit on their first-time home purchase. And that's where I got the slogan, "Every child deserves a castle." So to tell you a little bit about the history, how Liquid Castles was born, when I told you my mom shared me about her life, my grandmother was Puerto Rican. My grandfather was Puerto Rican. They lived in Puerto Rico. They were married, they had 2 children, and in April of 1931, while my grandmother was pregnant with my mother, her father died. My grandmother, and that bottom picture, the little girl sitting on the bottom, that's my mom at a foster home. So I got the records from the New York Foundling. There are 2 institutions in New York City that archive foster records, and I was able, proving my identification, to get my mom's records from the foster program, which was run by the New York Foundling in New York City. And this was one of the pages, and it talked about how my grandmother's brother, Joaquin de la Hoz Martinez, I used to call him Uncle King. I didn't know that. I thought his name was King. I found out later it was Joaquin. But he paid for my grandmother to come over to the United States from Puerto Rico after her husband died and she was pregnant with my mom. Well, my mom was born in New York City and went right into foster care upon birth. Immediately into foster care. And in the records, I found request for baptism. I have a really strong faith, and I know I get signs. And when I saw that, I just looked up to heaven and I said, "Thank you, God. There's a sign." My grandmother was named Pura de la Hoz. Back then, you had to put in a request for baptism. She requested my mom to be baptized on my date of birth, December 14th. I thought that was really interesting. A year and a half, almost a year and a half after my mom was born, she put in a request for baptism. So mom's born into foster care. She was taken out 3 years later. My grandmother met a man, got married, told him that she had 2 children in foster care. The eldest was with her. She got married, she had another child. So she had 3 full-blooded siblings, and then my mom had a half-sister, so there were 4 children from my grandmother. And that marriage didn't work out. Then there was another marriage. That didn't work out. It was a very difficult and traumatic upbringing that my mom had. And at 13 years old, she was orphaned. Her mom died, and she was placed along with her brother in St. Joseph's in Peekskill, New York. So, I don't know, it must have been around 2016, I went into my phone. Famous actress, St. Joseph's, Peekskill, New York, because I knew I wanted a spokesperson someday. And Rosie Perez came up. Rosie Perez, the actress, if you don't know her, she's a great Puerto Rican actress. She was in the same orphanage as my mother, and she wrote a book about it. So I have an ask for Bradenton Kiwanis and anyone else. I've been trying for years to get a hold of Rosie Perez. I want her to be a spokesperson or donate or be a guest speaker, something. Anyways, my mom shared with me that she ran away from the orphanage, and I don't know at what age. I know it's between 13 and 18. She ran away. She landed up in a brothel in New York City. Now, today's children that age out, we have sex trafficking, drug trafficking, homelessness. She was lucky. God blessed her because the madame of the brothel told her she could sleep for free downstairs in the basement, for free. No rent, don't have to worry about rent, as long as she didn't come upstairs. And my mother didn't. So she had free room and board downstairs of this brothel, and she got a job at a department store because my mom loved clothes. So that's part of the reason why I'm wearing white today. Mom always told me, you can't wear white after Labor Day. So that's how she started her young little life, okay? She never graduated high school. And she didn't get her GED until she was in her 40s, and I have no idea what her reading level was. So that's my mom. She was a beautiful woman. She loved clothes. That was my dad. So my dad was in World War II. He was a CB in Guam. He came home, he married his sweetheart, and had 2 little girls. Then his wife died, and he was widowed, and that's when the alcoholism supposedly got worse, when his wife died. He was an alcoholic. It was in his DNA. His father was an alcoholic. So part of these Little Mermaids are because when I was a little girl, I would always get Shirley Temples. And do you remember how the little mermaids are hung on the cocktail, glasses? And it brings back good memories, not bad ones. It brings back, my dad was a happy drunk. He wasn't an abusive drunk. He was a generous, kind-hearted, loving man. But he was an alcoholic. So this is my mom and dad. It just kind of shows you their life. They were fun. They were adventurous. They loved each other. They loved to dance. They loved fine dining. They loved hanging out. They loved Halloween. That bottom left picture is kind of funny. My dad was embarrassed. He got his driver's license taken away from him for drunk driving for a year. And guess what he did? He bought a limo. See the bottom left? That's my mom in the limo. She would have to drive him around in the limo. Ridiculous. So my dad was one of 4 founding partners of Accurate Forming in Hamburg, New Jersey, northern New Jersey. He was one of 4 founding partners. It's a major conglomerate metal manufacturing company. I had a very gilded life growing up, from the time of birth till 4th grade. In the 1960s, they gave my dad $1 million check and they kicked him out. My dad was an alcoholic. They had enough, so they kicked him out. Daddy then went on to form Maloney Enterprises, his own pen manufacturing company. He would make pen barrel caps for A.T. Cross, Schaefer, Revlon lipstick cases. I used to be quality control. I would sit at the bottom of a lathe machine, like when I was in 1st grade, with white gloves, and the caps would come off the machine, and I'd have to say reject or nope, good box, reject box. Yeah, I was quality control. I loved being in this environment. My mom was the bookkeeper, office manager. Like when I tell you a gilded life, a gilded life. These are pictures of me with my mom and my sisters when I was little. My mom always dressed us. I told you she loved clothes. Look at this. Let's see, it's my eldest, not half sisters. My full-blooded sister, 1 year later. My second sister, 2 years later, me. My mother dressed us all in the same clothes. Everyone thought we were triplets. She just loved to do that. I don't know why, except for Halloween. That's why I love Halloween. I was able to look different. I'm the bunny rabbit. This is Matilda. Matilda was the first lady who was our nanny. My mom and dad sponsored her from Peru. The top left picture was her when she took care of us and housekeeping and food, and while my mom worked with my dad in the business. The bottom picture is Matilda and my mom years later. My mom and dad sponsored her, and she moved over and she built 2 Peruvian restaurants in Paterson, New Jersey. The upper right picture, I had to include this picture. I love to dance. This was me on top of the baby grand piano in our living room before my dance recital. Oh gosh, that was funny. So here we are with this gilded life. I fell in love with the Gulf of Mexico because my parents would alternate. Dad liked Miami. Why? Of course, because he's an alcoholic and there's all that nightlife. Mommy loved Treasure Island. So we would go to the Thunderbird Hotel. Anybody been to the Thunderbird Hotel? Yeah, we would alternate. And then Fontainebleau, how about the Fontainebleau in Miami? Yeah, so we would alternate. And then we'd also go to Puerto Rico because my mom's brother, my Uncle Willie, lived there. So that was where we always stayed, the Racquet Club Hotel in San Juan. That's me standing up with holding the Coke can. I learned to scuba dive, and I fell in love with it, and that's when I first fell in love with mermaids, because I felt like a mermaid when I was 9 years old. And that's the certificate, you can see, July 1974, that I became an official mermaid. The home we grew up on was 5 acres, pond, stream, beautiful, beautiful property in northern New Jersey. I loved where I grew up. So right before entering 4th grade, my mom and dad divorced. My mom couldn't handle the philandering and the alcoholism. What's very interesting is that what led me to finance was because I felt my parents should have had a better financial advisor, because I should have been a trust fund baby. My grandchildren should have been trust fund babies. And then later on in life, I realized they didn't have right advice from finances and they didn't have right advice from lawyers, because they told my mom to take the house and my dad to take the business. The business was the bread and butter of the family. Dad bankrupted the business 2 years later. My dad died in 1998, penniless. So that's where I get my passion for the area of law I practice in. So when they split up, Mommy worked 3 jobs. I never saw her again from 4th grade on, because she wanted to keep that 5-acre house. And one of her jobs was a Mary Kay lady, so I have my Mary Kay rep, Regina, in the back here. She's given a little door prize. We'll talk about that later. My mom worked Mary Kay, bookkeeping, whatever she could do to put her 3 girls through parochial grammar school and parochial high school. Summers, I don't know why my mom did this, but it's probably because the 2 older daughters, she let them stay home. I worked. My mom made me go to the food truck at the local beach, PV Park in Pequannock Township, New Jersey. I worked Memorial Day through Labor Day, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5, flipping burgers, hot dogs, handing out ice cream, drinks at the local beach. And I loved it. I was with my godparents, and that's who watched me. And I did that 4th grade on, every summer, Memorial Day through Labor Day. The last paid-for vacation we had by my father before he bankrupted, it was in Europe. In 6th grade, I went to Europe. It made such an impression on me. That's why I came up with the idea for Liquid Castle's 24-hour vacation, because here's the deal. These kids, they're not motivated. That's why the system seems broken. But it's really not so broken. The kids aren't motivated. Everybody has a different author. It's not all of you are all going to love music, same type of music. Okay, for example, how many people love country music? Oh, more hands than none. All right? Or authors, who like sci-fi? Who likes mystery? How about romance novels? Okay? Everyone has a different author. These kids need to hear the author that speaks to them to motivate them. That's why the 24-hour vacation, because that vacation I will never forget. I've never been back to Europe. I've been to Ireland, but I haven't been back to Europe. That's me and my mom and my 2 sisters on top. On the left is my dad's mother. He told my mom, if you take my mom to Europe with the girls, I'll pay for a 3-week vacation. We went to England, France, Switzerland, and Italy. Now, look at that. I love the Leaning Tower of Pisa, okay? Who's climbing up the Leaning Tower now? You can't climb up that building. That's me, the middle row, all the way to the right, the one leaning on the column, that's me. I'm up on top of it. And then me and my sister were pretending to hold it up. And then that's my grandmother, my only grandparent. I didn't have, all my grandparents were dead except for my dad's mom. And I only saw her twice a year. She lived out on Long Island. She did, in Huntington, Valley Stream. So as a teenager, when my mom told me about her upbringing, and it hurt my heart, during the 1980s, Paul Newman came up with Hole in the Wall Gang to help terminally ill children. And I remembered thinking, okay, I'm going to do something like that. I'm going to create a company that's going to donate to the nonprofit. I mean, I had big dreams when I was a little girl, but got to remember, my dad was an entrepreneur. I got his entrepreneurial spirit, and my mom was a hard worker, and I got that from her too. So I read Paul Newman's book, and another sign from God, it was really interesting. I outlined it, and I want to read it to you. The brutality of it is the lives of others, made especially savage for children because they may not be allowed the good fortune of a lifetime to correct it. Paul Newman said that. But I have such a strong faith that I believe they do. They can correct it. They can reparent themselves at 18 when they age out. They own it. Every day you're alive, you're above ground, you own each day as a present. I'm a firm believer of that. And it just so happens that Paul Newman first supported the New York Foundling Hospital, and that was what my mom was born into. In 1989, fast forward, how did I find Sarasota for liquid castles? I'm at the light at 41 in Beneva by Sarasota Square Mall. I had taken my mom to Disney World, and her best friend lived in Englewood. I'm sitting at the light at 41 in Beneva. It's red. I looked over at my mom. I said, Mom, I'm going to live here someday. She's like, what are you talking about? I go, I don't know. It just came over me. I'm going to live in Sarasota someday. Well, a couple weeks later, my ex-husband told me he was marrying the woman. I was a young, divorced, single mom of a 3-year-old. And I said, Mommy, I'm not watching this. I'm going to Sarasota. And I knew I needed an education. So I went to the library, and I looked in Barron's, and I looked around Englewood, because my mom's best friend was there, and I looked around Sarasota, and I found Manatee Community College. And I said, I'm moving right next door to Manatee Community College, because I'm going to work full-time days. I want to go to school, and I don't want to be far from my little girl as a single mom. So I found, the bottom picture is my first apartment here in Bradenton. It was the El Conquistador, of course, from Manatee Community College, $900 a month. Yeah, my child support was $600 a month from New Jersey. The black box is my dad's CB, Navy box. My TV was a black and white 13-inch screen. And you like my dining room table? You see it? It's my daughter's Fisher-Price kitchen set. That was my furniture. I had nothing. I was uneducated, not supported, came from a broken home, but I was determined. So fast forward, it didn't go like I thought it was going to. I was a gypsy, went back and forth from Florida to Jersey, always going back. Finally, I went back raise my daughter. And I came back down in 2000. I remarried, had another child. Unfortunately, that didn't work. Went back to Jersey again, raised another daughter. Fast forward in the 2000s, late 2000s, around 2008, Tim Tebow inspired me with John 3:16, and I said, I got to find my own Bible verse for my nonprofit. And I found James 1:27. And I love it because it speaks about my mom and dad. I won a ticket at Life Surge 3 years ago in Tampa. I got to have a picture of me and Tim Tebow and his wife Demi, and I won an autographed football. I'm really proud of that because I think Tim Tebow is awesome, what he's doing with sex trafficking. It's just amazing. Here's the Bible verse that I picked. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and undefiled comes to the aid of orphans and widows, and don't be polluted by the world. And I love that. I think it's my mom always said the house of God has many shapes. And I think that Bible verse just captures both my parents, a widowed dad and an orphaned mom. So in 2017, I copyrighted Every Child Deserves a Castle. I knew I wanted a nonprofit that helped them with their first-time home purchase. I love castles, absolutely love architecture and old buildings, and I love building castles on the sand at the beach. I formed Liquid Castles on Christmas Day in 2022. I developed a lean board, 3 volunteers, including me. Jody O'Meara is one of them, and Mike Pender is the other one. Just keeping it lean and mean, and all volunteers. First donation happened this year from the Hangover Cup in Sarasota. My printing company that I use, Adam, he said, hey, you know what? we want to donate to your nonprofit. I was like, thank you, thank you. And then Sisterhood for Good did the second donation in June. Manatee County Sheriff's Office donated the first car. However, after doing research since last fall, I realized I don't want our nonprofit to give them donated cars, because I'm starting to hear and realize a lot of these kids can't even handle it. And if the car breaks down, now I just caused bigger problems for them, bigger issues. And I sure don't want them selling it and buying drugs. So I've been doing more research, and it's transportation. These kids need transportation so that they can work or go to school after they age out. I have this picture, it's kind of interesting. I helped my younger daughter buy a car in Bradenton at the Mazda dealership. And I was telling the salesman about, I'm going to have a nonprofit someday. I'm telling him all my dreams about it. And my daughter's pulling out in her used new car, and that vehicle is coming down Cortez Road. I believe in signs. When do you see a Cadillac, 1970s Cadillac, yellow with a white top, cruising down Cortez Road 3 years ago? Well, that was the car my dad drove us in. I was a little girl, and in the back seat with my two sisters, I felt like a princess. I loved that car, getting into that Cadillac. It was so cool. I literally felt like a princess. And then when I saw Elvis Presley car at the Country Museum in Nashville, he had like a Cadillac with a little TV in the back. It just inspired me. When that car drove down Cortez, as my daughter was pulling out with the car I helped her buy, I realized, thank you, God. There's another sign. I'm moving in the right direction. Keys to Independence is a state program. I don't know if anybody knows about it. Spread the word. Foster orphan population. Keys to Independence state program will pay for them to get their driver's license, and if they qualify, Keys to Independence will pay for 6 months free car insurance. Do you know how important that is? We all know how auto rates have gone up. This is like a huge thing from the state. So my goal is in the next 5 years to help this population, like I said, obtain donations to help with a car purchase or monthly work transportation. So this morning I Googled, do you know a monthly SCAT, Sarasota monthly SCAT monthly pass is $60 a month. New York City, a monthly bus is $130. Chicago, $100. LA, $100. I think it should be a federal program giving these kids whichever city's the highest monthly bus or whatever transportation, these kids should have that. Because we don't know where they're going at 18. They leave with a bus ticket and a black bag of clothes. We don't know where they're going. They could be going to New York. They could be going to Alaska, Hawaii, who knows? But they need transportation to provide, to get work. They need it. They need the help. So that kind of tells you all about that. Oh, backwards. I can't play that. I don't know how to play that. That fearless motivation, that link.
Oh, I did.
Could you play that? Do we have time? If not?
There wasn't a video embedded in it.
No? Okay. Okay, so these children, they don't understand natural endorphins. I know we have some athletes in the room who understand physical exercise brings natural endorphins. Harvard research shows you sex, shopping, smelling cookies, baking in the oven, all trigger dopamine. Isn't that interesting? That was a Harvard report. I want these kids to know what a healthy, committed relationship is. I want them to have successful careers, to shop and enjoy life's pleasures, and I sure want them to have a castle of their own to bake cookies for their loved ones. I want them all to have it. So I have a Bradenton Kiwanis ask. I have 2 people here who have offered to employ, oh, no, not one person here who has offered to employ, but there have been other people. I think we need to try to help these kids get jobs. They need to be working at high school level. They need to be working, not sitting at the foster home or the foster group home. They need to be working, making money, developing a good work habit. They need physical exercise, natural dopamine. They need to be doing these things to help them. I would like an ask of Bradenton Kiwanis. I just got these books a couple months ago. My mom and dad never put me in Alateen or Al-Anon, which they should have. And I loved today's reading from my Al-Anon book. It says, we often hear it said in Al-Anon that the 12 steps are a way of life, not only in coping with the problems of alcoholism, but in everything else. We have only to replace the word alcohol with the name of the problem which confronts us. I'm telling you right now, I need help to get these books, the Alateen book, because that's for younger, Al-Anon, that's for older, but 13 years of age and older, I think every kid in the 12th Judicial Circuit should have these two books. And I think Bradenton Kiwanis can help Alcoholics Anonymous come up with a way of donating these two books to every single child in our community that's in foster orphan care. Because this is proven, psychologists, psychiatrists, to help them navigate the healing of generational trauma. They need this help. They can't drive, and if they read it every day, trust me, it's gonna start working on their little brains. It's gonna open up the pathways of new discovery, and they're gonna realize that they get to reparent themselves. You're not defined by the family they're born into. They're not. So with that, Murray Donald back there, he's an employer of foster children and orphan children, or he's trying to be, but we can't seem to get anyone qualified or for him to hire. It's just, we need help with that too. And then Yola, Yola, I just met her she's a photographer, I just met her at the Sarasota Chamber of Commerce event, and she offered to take headshots of the foster orphan children in our community who need it for college resumes, VOTEC resumes, LinkedIn to apply for jobs. She's offered to take headshots of the kids, which is awesome, phenomenal. So in closing, my mom was a Mary Kay lady, and I have a door prize. So each table, every table, only one table is going to guess, because you can't all guess, right? Or I guess you can, whoever comes closest. Who can predict or name what date my mother, not year, my mom died in 2018. Who can predict what date my mother died on?
December 14th.
No, but request for baptism, though. What? Mm-mm.
18.
No. Mm-mm. I'll say spring, getting closer. Who said that? No. Well, what? Wait. Oh, you two have to share. Because guess what? My mom was a clown. She loved to joke around. And I can't make this up. She loved to joke around. Guess when my mom died? April Fool's Day. April 1st. And in 2018, it was Easter Sunday. And I don't care what anyone says. Parents love all their children equally. However, with different personalities, parents will get along with other children more because of the personality. Doesn't mean they love them any less. Well, my mom's favorite daughter, wedding anniversary was April 1st, and that was her favorite son-in-law, who was born on the same day as my mother, August 14th. Like, I can't make this up. So after she passed, I'm like, boy, she hit the trifecta. April 1st, Easter, and the wedding anniversary of her favorite daughter. So you guys have to share this door prize. Lewis and Ed, you got to share it. I don't know what's in it. That was donated by the Mary Kay Lady Regina. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening to my story. And again, 2 asks, Rosie Perez, and help get these books right now in these kids' hands.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. As with tradition with Kiwanis, we'd like to present you with our coveted golden ruler.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for
Thank you
coming.
very much, everyone. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Oops. Get everything off of here.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming. I really appreciate that. Tomorrow we have a board meeting in this room. It'll be my last board meeting that is running as president. So, yeah, thank you very much. So thanks for everybody for coming. Enjoy your week. And if you want to come to the board meeting, we'd love to have you tomorrow. Thanks very much.